What would you put in your backpack if you had a new coaching engagement but could only take a limited number of items? Each week, the Coach's Backpack looks at the multifaceted world of coaching and asks a new guest to tell us what they would take with them and why. Hi, I'm David Lowe, and this week we're taking a peek inside the backpack of Jim Wyllie. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I am very excited to hear what you're going to choose to put in your Coach's Backpack. But before we start talking about your backpack items, how would you describe what you do in under 20 words?
So I help organizations to normalize change and to get really good at it. I think that's how I'd describe it.
Right. Well, we will dig into this further as we go through your backpack choices. So thank you for that. Okay, well, look, here is the challenge that we've got for you. You've been asked to coach a new client, but are limited to what you can take with you. So don't worry, you have your essentials. You've got your clothes, your toothbrush, your over-tight selection of lycra. And in addition to this, you can take one book, one tool, technique, concept, method, approach, whatever you want to call it, one other item of your choice, plus a person from the past or the present to accompany you. So, Jim Wyllie, what and who would you take with you? And why?
Can I just clear this up first though? Like, unless I'm able to also take my bike, I probably wouldn't be packing the lycra.
Well, you say this. I'm not sure that's true.
It's not. Yeah, I don't just wear it around. It has a specific use, but yeah, that's a nice thought that I could take my bike away with me. So sorry, you want who am I taking with me was the question.
Well, all of these. So your book, your tool, technique, approach, your other choice, and your person. You can go in any order you wish. And I just want to get that image of you wandering around in your lycra out of my head as soon as possible. So let's crack on.
Well, maybe we start with the book, because I think that helps me to frame a little better what an agile coach is. And, you know, there's lots of, as with all of these terms and labels, there's lots of contention around that in the industry. So the book I'm choosing to take with me is a book called Leading Change by a gentleman called John Cotter. And I actually struggled with this one quite a bit, but I believe that agile coaching is about helping organizations to achieve business agility. And I define business agility as the ability to leverage change for commercial gain. But change is really hard. And what Cotter does in this book is, as with a lot of other people, he's got his kind of steps. He's got his 8 steps, and there's loads and loads of texts around saying, you know, here's the magic X number of steps that you can take to help somebody transform their thinking. But his, for some reason, sticks with me. And I go back to it quite a lot, especially during those kind of hard times when you're with a client and you're sort of slogging through and it's not really, you know, they're pushing back quite hard. It's not really working. You can't see their thinking changing. And just being able to go back to this book, I think is really useful. Kind of refresh your mind about like how you could go about it. I think, you know, there's a standard set of steps in here, but it sort of recognizes, as we all do, that each client, each individual client, each organization is very different. So it's packed full of things that are universally applicably good things that you might do. So that's why I'm taking this book.
Okay, you can answer one of these 2 questions. One is, what are the 8 steps? And then the other question, if you don't want to answer that, is, which is the client that's been the hardest to work with?
Like I said, all clients are different. I don't think there's any one client that's easy to work with. They're certainly easier to work with, but they're all a challenge. That's why they hire people like me, I guess. So I'll go with the first one, but I'm not gonna give you all 8 steps, because I think that would ruin it for people who want to read it. But for anyone interested, step 1, establishing a sense of urgency. So asking the client really to think about and understand why they might want to change in the first place. And that's a critical first step, because without being able to kind of get through to that point, if they don't believe they want to change, then what are we actually going to do together? Like, why are we here? So establishing that sense of urgency for the organization is a key first step.
Thank you. And you and I both know, because I know this industry as well, lots of people approach agile coaches with the aim of, we want to be agile. right? And that's the aim that they come with. What's your view on that?
I think it's back to front thinking. It's where that comes or stems from where we're focused on process and tooling and practice, and they think it can be easily codified. They're looking for an easy answer. Essentially, what ends up happening is they apply the same thinking that they've always applied, but just using the new tools. And surprise, surprise, nothing really changes. So Agile coaching, in the same way that any other coaching is about helping people to transform their thinking and therefore their behavior, not just going in with a load of tools and hoping that will do the job, because it doesn't or won't.
Well, and this might be a nice segue into our next item for your coach's backpack. I don't know. So the tool or technique or concept or method or approach or whatever you want to call it, what are you going to put in for that?
So I did think a little bit about this, and I thought, well, can I go in with something smart and big like systems thinking? But no, we're on a short podcast, and that sort of stuff takes quite a while to describe. So I wanted to go with something that kind of emphasized the core principles behind Agile, and also that has impact, because I talk to my clients a lot about the positive impact they're having on their customer. So any kind of tool, technique, concept, or approach that I use with them also has to have impact. They are my customer in effect. So I'm going with hypothesis-driven experimentation as I guess you could describe it as any one of those four: a tool, a technique, a concept, or an approach. You can use it in any way like that. There's the kind of idea of empiricism, which is at the heart of Agile. So the idea that we do something and what we learn from doing that thing informs what we do next, in a very simple way. And what this hypothesis-driven approach does is it creates a framework for those hypotheses and our thinking, and drives us then to say, well, based on this outcome, what are we going to do next? So you can frame it, we believe that this change, whatever it is that you're going to change, will generate this outcome, this particular outcome, and we'll know that's happened when we see this measurable signal. And what's good about it is it's really versatile. So you can use it to define improvement experiments, you can use it to create product change experiments, so something that you might want to run a quick test on with a set of customers. So it's pretty versatile, and it has a whole load of impact.
Cool. And obviously, it's very much in my heart, because, cheeky plug for my book, The Lemonade Stall, is about exactly this.
Yeah.
But you didn't choose that for your book, so your Christmas card is not coming in the post.
Have I ever got a Christmas card from you? Possibly.
You're not going to now. If you ever did, it was the last one. I'm only joking.
But, in all seriousness, so this specific tool or technique, I think is really impactful. But that, if we're talking about Agile coaching as a thing, a lot of what we do is helping people to reframe their thinking using these sorts of tools. But doing it in a scientific way, rather than it just being a bit of guesswork. So how will we know that this change has had the impact that we want it to have? And thinking about that before we make the change. That's really, in essence, what this thing is doing for us.
And it goes back to what you were saying just before, in that if someone's just being agile or just wants to be agile as a thing, well, then there's no actual output, right? There's no outcome. There's no benefit that they're saying. So if we do this, we'll get this. Well, what are you going to get just by being agile?
You're probably going to end up doing the same thing, just in a different way. Is where we are. Without the thought change, without the change in the way of thinking, without looking at the system and how it operates, and really looking at it, like stepping back and looking at it objectively, and then trying to understand how we could change it for the better, it's not going to work. We end up, I think, optimizing locally. So a lot of the clients that I work with are software development companies, or software development departments within larger organizations. And it's always seen as, okay, go in there, work with those people because they're the people that are going to do delivery. But those folks can't be agile on their own. The essence of it is collaboration, communication. The whole organization needs to think about their part in that.
Doing this podcast, I realized that the term coach is obviously used by many different people. And one thing that distinguishes the different types of coaches is how directive they are. So people bring you into their organization and they want to achieve this thing. How much guidance do you give them?
I think as an agile coach, you are definitely stepping between these various different roles or the different hats that we're wearing. Most companies, as you've said, are looking for that quick fix, right? Come in, give us some tools and practices. And so when they're hiring you, and clearly, you have these conversations ahead of time, so you're preparing them. You're not going to take work with a customer who's not going into it with their eyes open, but you're not talking to everyone in the organization. And largely they're hiring you for as an agile subject matter expert, an SME. And people don't know what they don't know. So there is an element of teaching and training, a big element of that. And often we start with that. So we try to get a baseline knowledge for everybody so that we can move forward with a shared understanding of what the terms are, the practices are, what it means, etc., etc. And it's only then that you're able to step more into coaching and get those powerful open questions going and really try and understand the business.
So to you, an agile coach is an element of teaching, is an element of mentoring, is an element of coaching, is an element of facilitating sometimes. It's a all-encompassing term, is it?
I'd say so, yeah, if done well. And I'm not suggesting that I do it like better than anybody else. I probably don't. But yeah, I think the trick with it is to know when, again, as with any coaching, and to signpost when you are one or the other. So is this a mentoring conversation? Am I working with somebody who after I'm no longer with the client is going to need to understand this and be able to work with other people in the organization in the way that I've been doing? I see sustainability as a big part of any, I hate to use the word transformation, but any change in thinking, right? So if they're reliant on me to be there, then I'm not doing my job effectively as a coach. The thinking has to transform with them, again, as it does with any other form of coaching.
Okay, good, thank you. So we should probably press on because we've still got one item to put in your backpack of any item of your choice, and we've still got the person. And the person, by the way, doesn't have to fit in the backpack. They just accompany you, right?
Yeah, that's good. That would be a pretty big backpack. So as anyone who's met an agile coach before will say, like, they always come with this thing. So the item I've chosen is Postits and Sharpies.
A stereotype.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to tell me that's two items, but like, I don't believe it is. I mean, what is a Post-it without a Sharpie, and what is a Sharpie without a Post-it? They were kind of like, they were made to go together.
I think Confucius said that, right?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, what is a Post-it without a Sharpie? And we should just be very clear on this because I don't want to upset anyone, but there are other makes of sticky notes and of large felt tip pens.
There are. I'd say those other makers of sticky notes perhaps haven't got it quite right yet. So Post-it, for me, I'm a brand ambassador. I'm going with it. They've done the job.
Are you going to get it on your lycra? Are you going to have like a sticky note, a Post-it note on your ass?
Well, that would suggest that I'm a sponsored rider. I'm definitely not that good, so no. But I'd be open to that if they're up for it. And yeah, Sharpies are the natural choice. They just work. It all stands out on there. Biro doesn't stand out. It's a practical thing more than a brand thing in that case. But so yeah, Post-its and Sharpies, and lots of.
Any specific type of Post-it? Because I know there's specific types that some people are obsessed about.
Yeah, I mean, we're stretching this segment a little bit, aren't we? But this is
what people come for, Jim. Just to be clear.
This kind of premium content.
This is the gold of this podcast.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are different types of Post-its. The super sticky ones are the best ones, and if we really want to stretch it, and obviously your listeners aren't going to be able to see this, but in order to peel, when I say peel, it's more of a pull. to pull the post-it off the top, you pull it down with a sharp motion, and that guarantees that it doesn't curl. So there you go. There's a type of post-it, and there's even a method behind the madness.
Maybe you can record a video that we can send out for people to show them the real way to put a sticky note, and we'll send it out to our mailing list, which if you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe to our mailing list. You get lots of extras in it. Just before we move on, and I know we're stretching this, as you said, the one thing I hate is those concertina sticky notes. You've seen those? They are really irritating. They're sort of
stuck together top to tail.
Yeah.
I wonder where the idea came from, what the idea for.
They probably go into some kind of container that pulls out and it desk organizer or something ridiculous. But anyway, one last question on this of your choices. Who are you taking?
Well, I thought if I'm getting to go away somewhere, it'd be nice to take my wife. But then I realised that the kids would then just be home alone. So that's not really, that's not an option.
You could just give them a packet of Post-it notes to keep them busy and then be all right, wouldn't it?
Whole of like a little trough full of food and then leave them to it. Well, look, there's so many change agents, great change agents, system thinkers, authors, that sort of stuff that would be useful on any kind of client engagement. But what brings that all together is the coach themselves. So I thought I settled on taking another Agile coach with me. And the main reason for that is I think when you work in pairs, I think that's the Agile coaching equivalent of supervision in a way. So you've got someone there to bounce ideas off, validate your thinking, to challenge you appropriately, and obviously to kind of share the burden. And we've all been on those client engagements where you're on your own with 600 people you've never met before for months at a time. It can be a lonely place, really. And I know that, we talk a lot, and we've got other colleagues who've been in the same industry, and that's all good, but it's really difficult because they don't understand the context that you're in or the nuances of the client relationship that you've got. So yeah, I think it would be another Agile coach that I'll take with me.
All right, so you've picked your items. You've got your backpack packed. Sometimes we don't pack everything in our backpack. Maybe your wife, who you mentioned, has helped you pack. Maybe something that you don't want to be there sneaks in. So what would you want to make sure is not in your backpack?
So which scaling framework should I choose to answer this question? No, I'm not going to do that because we'd end up talking about that for about an hour. No, I'm going to choose something equally controversial, and that is Jira. I'm not going to pack Jira into my backpack. And for those people I suppose that are listening that don't know what Jira is, it is an agile lifecycle management tool, and the pure evil, the root of a significant well, it plays a massive part in perpetuating agile anti-patterns. And that's not Jira's fault, it's the fault of people that use it or misuse it rather. And there are, as I suspect, in lots of other coaching spheres, plenty of people calling themselves coaches who aren't necessarily and don't think about it in the right way and like to give clients what they want, which is the answers and this solid solution. And it comes in the form of Jira quite a lot. Big organizations love it because it gives them audit trail and can be used for governance and all of those things that they value more than actually getting stuff done. But it kills communication, in my experience, kills collaboration, prevents, almost in some cases actively prevents people from working together. And for that reason, I don't really like it. It's also so easy to overcomplicate. Like, it doesn't take much to make it really, really hard to use. Out of the box, it could be very simple. And I think they started off with the right intentions, but it's gone too far now.
So it's the people's usage of this tool that's particularly the problem.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Because they see it as the solution to everything. And like I say, there's plenty of people out there in our industry who've supported that idea. Yeah, because it's an easy way of earning money from a client. They don't have to think differently to be able to use this. As in fact, this kind of supports their existing mindset in a lot of cases. So they're not really coaching, is my suggestion there.
Can you give me an example of how it kills communication?
So yeah, you have these work items work item types, and they create, in effect, tickets. It's a ticketing system, and it allows you to comment on those tickets. And so rather than that comment being, I guess, a supporting statement after we've already had a face-to-face or a verbal conversation over the phone to document what we described, it becomes people's primary mechanism for communication. And of course, lots and lots of things slip through the net because people don't read those comments. They just don't. You can set it up such that it emails you when someone comments on something that you're working on. You end up getting so many emails from that thing that you switch them off. And so again, you're just ignoring what's going on. It's useful as a way of recording decisions made and conversations had, but it is not effective as a primary method of communication.
Right. Jira is not going in your backpack.
Definitely not.
So everything's packed. We know what you are and are not taking. We know who's going with you. Where do you hope you are or are not heading?
Like any coach, an agile coach can't coach an organization that doesn't want to be coached. You've got to have engagement. So I think if I had the ideal place to be heading, it would be somewhere with an engaged leadership team who are willing to reflect and then sponsor and model any changes that they identify. A lot of places where you go, if the leadership team is not engaged with change, it makes it very difficult for the rest of the organization to be engaged with change because they don't feel like they have permission. So that's not to say that that leadership team will be defining every change that we make, but they need to, and I mentioned normalizing change, they will need to operate in a way that makes the rest of the organization feel safe to try things that won't necessarily work out, and for that to be okay. So somewhere with an engaged leadership team, I think that's how we get the best out of agile coaching.
Well, and that seems a good place to wrap this up, I think, Jim. So if people want to know more, where can they go?
I don't really have anything to plug. I just wanted to come on here and have a good chat with you. But we wrote a book together a while back, which I'm sure you're plugging anyway.
I don't do cheap plugs on this podcast, Jim. You would never catch me mentioning any of the books I've written.
All right. So Scrum 101, 101 questions about Agile with Scrum, was written, 2017 now? So, a few years old, but still a great reference text, I hear, from all of the thousands of readers that we have. That's available on any good Amazon website, so you can buy it there. And Jim Wyllie Coaching is the name of my company. I do personal coaching as well as organizational coaching, as we've described. I'm an accredited coach, PCC, with the ICF, so I have some creds and plenty of agile experience and industry qualifications if those are important to you.
Superb. Well, thank you, Jim Wyllie, for being a guest on the Coach's Backpack.
My pleasure. It was good to be here, David. Thank you. Good conversation.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Coach's Backpack. If you would like extra goodies such as free tools, offers, further info about our guests, including maybe Jim Wyllie peeling off a sticky note, and maybe even the odd peek inside their actual backpack, sign up to our mailing list at thecoachesbackpack.com. And I guarantee there will not be a picture of Jim in lycra. And don't forget to follow the podcast too. See you next time.